Okay, so today we're going to continue with Romans 8. We're going to do 16 through 30. Yeah, 16 through 30. Okay, so if you remember, this is my diagram, the memory palace. 16 is what was it? I already forgot. 16 is, it was this whole marble room here, right? So this one, where there was like a table here. 17, where there were 3 carvings on the side wall. 18 was another statue that I used. 19 was a marble bench. 20 was a stand that was there. 21 was another statue that I used. 22 was a window. Yeah, a round window. 23 was another statue. 24 was a painting. 25 was a row of chairs. 26 was another window. If you see this, it doesn't really go in a circle like this. That's because I couldn't get in this area. So basically, I'm just going from right to left, right? So 26 was a window. 27 was a painting on the ceiling. 28 was a table, I believe, with stairs in front. 29 was a bunch of pipes. And then 30 was a chair. This is a chair. So that's what I used to memorize 16 through 30. Okay, so that's my memory palace. Let's go. So 16 is the Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we are children of God. So 16, there was a ledge here. So I used the Spirit is Thor, and then he put down the Sprite can, and then it tipped over, and the Sprite was going on to a hymn book. Then on the table, there was a small statue, and I just imagined him testifying, and then he took the Sprite can, and then I think this is with in sign language. So I kind of took that with our spirit, and then on the floor, there was children, a bunch of golden children with a hat on or something. So that we are children of God. I think that's what it was. 17 was a carving, and if children, so it kind of goes with 16, right? So it continues. And if children, so the first card, I imagine like children, and then hairs also. So hairs, I think there was hairs falling, and it was gold. And then fellow hairs. Oh, fellow is when it started. So fellow fall, kind of like that. Fellow hairs with Christ. So that's when the hairs were falling. And then it fell on a Christmas tree. And then if indeed we suffer with him, so that whole section, I just remember that, like, we are fellow heirs with God, of God with Christ. And then if we suffer with him, then we will also be glorified with him. So I kind of put that emotion on those 3 carvings. So I think at the very bottom, I remember there was the Glory movie, there was a hymnal book. Those are for him, and then glorified. So it's like kind of like we suffer. So I'm suffering, Christians are suffering there, but it's so that we can be glorified with him. Okay, so that's the thought that I'm putting there. 18, I think it's a famous verse for I consider that the suffering of this present time. So 18th is basically for I use some with glasses. So I think there was a statue here, and it had glasses on, and then it was pouring cider on this body. Yeah. And then the body was suffering because of the cider, right? And then present time, I use a present, and then I think I opened it up and there was a clock in there, or a watch. So present time, are not worthy. So under there was like a table, and then are is a pirate, not is a knot, like a rope knot, and then James Worthy, to be compared. I think they were comparing their glories, like pirate and James Worthy or something. They're comparing like who's better, like who's more who's better. That is to be revealed to us. So in the end, it was revealed. So I remember them. I think there's flowers in the front, and then it's like they're revealing a flowers, like U.S. flowers. So 19 is just a marble bench. For the anxious, I used Thor with an afro and then he's anxiously waiting. He's like on the bench and he's just waiting. And then longing, I just imagine him wearing long johns. We went tubing recently, but long johns. And of the creation of I don't have a really oven, the creation. I always use creatine. Back then we used to work out, me and Jeff, and I think he used to take creatine or something, or my cousin used to take creatine too, but it was a big thing a long time ago. So creatine is creation. And then waits eagerly. So waits eagerly comes up a lot in Romans 8. So I just imagine an eagle. So eagle, and then I just imagine that waits eagerly is the eagle, right? For the revealing of the sons of God. And I think the marble, like behind the bench, was just marble, but I just imagine him, the eagle, like pulling something off, like he's revealing something, and then there's a bunch of suns, like golden suns, so sons of God. Okay, 20. Oh, this was hard. This is the stand, right? For the creation, same thing. I used the afro, Thor with an afro, carrying a creatine, and out of the creatine box was a wasp. So that's was, and then something had to do with the submarine ejected, and then to futility. For me, futility was the cyborgs. What are they called? I use them all the time. From the Star Trek Next Generation, the Borgs, right? That's futility, resistance is futile or something. And then, so that was on the top of the stand, ends with the cyborgs. Not willingly was not a rope. And then Will Smith had a rope and he was hitting something. Maybe the stand, I can't, but he's not willingly, right? But was on the floor, but came down because be with gauze of him who subjected it in hope. So that whole section, I just kind of remember that it was God that subjected it, right? And then I don't like this portion where in hope is, the verse number ends at in hope, which is kind of weird. I don't know why they did that, but whatever. So in hope, just so that I remember, it continues to verse 21. It's like hoping, I'm hopping to 21. And then 21 was a statue right here. The creation, same thing, had the creatine. So that Thor, and then he's carrying creatine. Itself also, I just keep thinking of a shelf, right? Itself, or maybe it on a shelf, the clown from It on a shelf. Also is my friend Owl in sewing. Will Smith, B is a bee, set free from its slavery. So the whole story that I created here, something about there was a crown or something, right? And then, so yeah, that was a crown. And then the creation itself also will be set free. So, oh yeah, there were a bunch of like little angels or something like that. And then they were being set free. So that's the image I meant, that they were being set free from its slavery. And then there are two statues that I use for corruption, two corruption. So two, and then corruption is like, I imagine them being like data corrupted. Into the freedom. I recently changed this to the freedom convoy. So every time freedom comes up, I think of a bunch of trucks. Freedom of I'm going to use of in glory, of in children of God. So that way I just remember of the glory of the children of God. And at the very end, there was a bunch of golden children on the floor. And then 22 was a window, and then this window was round. So it's kind of cool because for is Afro. I think I just imagine that being the world, right? For we know the whole creation groans and suffers the pains. I think I used bane. Yeah, bane and giving birth or something like that, and the pain, and then together until now. I didn't really memorize anything for that, but you could use a tilling for until now or later, to gather together. I might mess it up when I actually recite because I didn't really create a story, but the image is basically the whole world is groaning, right? Because of sin. It's suffering. So it's kind of cool. And then the next one, 23, is actually a statue of a person. And then this one is saying the image, the emotion is that we ourselves are groaning too. The world is groaning, we ourselves are groaning. So what I did was, because this verse is kind of long, let me go to 23. Just put this up. Because this verse is very long, I kind of broke it up. And not only this was a head part and so ant was on it with a knot. That's all I can remember. And not only this, and then there was a feather. he was carrying a feather pen or something, but so tickling my butt or something. Oh, that's terrible. And then also, did I remember also is alsoing we ourselves. So I remember putting an hour shelf, an hourglass on a shelf somewhere like that. And then he had a necklace. So that one I was like having on the necklace, I'm pointing having, this is sign language for having the first fruits of the spirit. So I think there were fruits on the necklace and then the Sprite can in the middle, right? Then he was carrying a book, even we ourselves grown within ourselves. So kind of even bar we. So I think on the book, it was like even we, and then shelf, and then the middle portion, I just imagine that's grown within ourselves. So there was shelves on both sides of the book, so that, and then grown. So that way I can imagine even we ourselves grown within ourselves. And then waiting eagerly, I meant, just like I said, it's an eagle. So that was at the foot of the statue. There was an eagle there, and then for our adoption as son. So we're waiting eagerly for our adoption as son. Adoption was the options, the thing I described in, was it verse 15, the adoptions as sons. So the redemption of our body. So at the very bottom, it was the redemption is like, you can either use Johnny Depp, I guess, but I always use redemption like a redemption ticket. Like you go to, one of those game centers and you're redempting, and I'm redeeming our body. So I just remember body for this one. I remember like I was redeeming something and I was not me, but there was a body flexing, just so, whatever. Anyways, use whatever works for you. Okay, 24 was a painting. And then at the top, so for Afro in hope. So there's a fro in hope. I just remember hoping, a lot of hopping. And then, there was a bird. There was a bird in the painting. And I remember that I just pictured we being saved, by the bird. So for in hope, we had been saved. And then the picture, it was like, but hope. And then it was a not hope. So, but hope and a not hope. So, but hope that is seen is not hope. Kind of confusing phrase, not confusing, but it makes sense, but it's just too many similar words. So I just remember but hope. So but hope, and then hopping, and then, scenery in the background, and then a knot, and then hopping with a knot, right? Then the picture was Afro, who was blowing hops for what he already sees. So I mentioned I just mentioned him, he already sees it, so there's no reason to hope for it, right? That's the image the emotion that I included in that. And then 25 was a row of chairs, and then but once again, but if we hope. So I think there was a bunch of we, and then I'm hopping on a we, something like that. For what we do not see. So donut, I remember it was like on the chairs, I just made it like an ocean, like a sea, and then a donut on it, like a donut on the sea. With perseverance, there was some kind of stone something. With perseverance, I just remember like I was putting the stones together and then hitting with the purse for perseverance. I usually use purse for persecuted, but in this, I kind of just, remembered it has nothing to do with persecution. So, and then we wait, and then there was an eagle, and then eagle is just waiting for it. So that's what I use for 25. And then 26, the famous verse is, in the same way, I use my friend Sam for same way, Sam, same, something like that. So I just imagine Sam in front of the window, right? In the same way, the Spirit also helps our weakness. So I just imagine that there was a light, chandelier type of thing, and then there's a Sprite can, and it's helping our weakness. So I just, that's like kind of easy. I didn't really create anything because we already know this verse a little bit, but in the same way, the Spirit also helps our weakness. I didn't really create anything. And then so falling down, I think it was for we do not know how to pray as we should. And I was falling down from the chandelier and I was like, I don't know how to pray for this or something like that. And then when I fall down and hit the floor, it was butt. So my butt landed first on a Sprite can, and then I think it spilled onto a hymn. So, but the Spirit himself, right? And then he intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. I think we use this verse maybe out of context a lot actually. But anyways, so that's what I used for 26. 27 was a painting on a roof, and ant, He-Man riding an ant, and he's searching for the heart. I just remember that. And he who searches for the heart knows, so I think knows what the mind of the spirit is. So mind, I use like a landmine, spirit, sprite can again. There's a lot of sprite cans in this memory palace, but he who searches the heart knows what the mind is, because, and that was, I went to the middle of the painting of the ceiling, because he intercedes. So intercedes, I use intersection, like a road intersection all the time. For the saints, I just remember a bunch of saints. It's a cartoon characters, like Japanese Saint Seiya or whatever. Yeah, that's what it's called. But I just remember he intercedes for the saints, and then they're playing accordion, and then I think it falls on the wheel, on a well, a golden well or something, according to the will of God. Okay. 28 here. Oh, I'm not using my thing. 28 was a table. And this, of course, another famous verse. And we know that God causes all things to work together for good. So and was an ant. It was playing we, and then he's like, no. And then God with a hat, right? And he causes, it was God's, but I just remember he's creating the, it's kind of like a creation that he was doing, and then owl and the monster things, they were working together for good. And then in front, it was two toes, those who love God. So just imagine of them hugging God, loving God. And then again, there were stairs here, and then to those who are called according to his purpose was two toes calling a dolphin, right? And dolphin is hissing, something about accordion too. But this is a famous verse. And then 29 was pipes, right? And then out of the pipes, there were four, an afro, a toe with an afro. For those whom he foreknew, know is this in sign language. So He-Man, in doing this, he also predestined. So there was a pipe facing this way and then a pipe that way. So it's kind of like, hey, he foreknew, he also predestined. Predestined, I use the movie Destination, Destination, I believe. It's a scary movie, right? And then there was also a chandelier again. And then I use that two bee comb. Is like I saw two bees combing their hair or something. And then they wear a uniform to be the image of his son, to be like Christ, right? So I think they were wearing a uniform to be like Jesus Christ. And then falling down soda, there was falling soda, and it fell on He-Man, and then he would become, he would be the firstborn among many brethren. I just remember there was a bunch of bread that he landed on. Okay, and then the last one for this one, and these, so using the chair, it was, and these, and was an ant was on top of the chair, and these is my cousin, Yoji, right here. And these, you could use T's, I think, for that as well. Whom he predestined. So everything is whom he, and then he also. I think that's how you can kind of memorize it. And these whom he predestined, he had the DVD predestined, he opened it up and there was a phone in there. So he's calling, and those he called, he also justified. So then after he called, he, the justice is blind, and he puts that on the floor. And then these whom he justified, he also glorified. Glorified is the movie, The Glory of Denzel Washington. So in the end, it's Denzel Washington is like in the very bottom of this chair area. Okay, so that's the images. I know it's long and it is kind of time consuming, but it's worth it, especially if you use a memory palace. You kind of, and if anything, if you don't remember word for word, which I don't try to do because it'll just take too long, you get what the context is talking about. Well, you have to study it and then all that. So, but so let me just kind of review. Let's see, can I make this bigger again like last time? Okay. All right, so let's review 16. Okay, see, I gotta move my camera. So 16 was, what was 16? That's why it messed me up when I use so many. 16, okay, so I just remember this was a marble room, so I'm throwing dishes. That's what I also do. So 16 is, I use a major system just to help me so I don't get confused. 16 is dishes. I just remember I'm throwing all these dishes. Whoa. and then at the marble room. So that's how I remember 16. 21 was net. So I just remember like this area, I was running around with a net. And then 26 is nacho, and Sam loves nachos. So I just remember him eating nachos here. So that's how I remember, okay, this room is 16, 21. It helps a little bit because of all the same furniture or locations I use. Okay, so anyway, 16. So 16 was the Spirit himself. The Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, heirs also, heirs of God, and fellow heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, so that we also may be glorified with him. 18 was a building, for I consider, you know what's really hard is I memorized some of these verses in NIV, so I'm going to get mixed up probably, but anyways, okay. For I consider that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that will be revealed to us. 19, for the anxious longing of the creation waits eagerly revealed, something about sons of God. Yeah. Waits eagerly for the revealing of the sons of God. I think something like that. 20, for the creation was 20, for the creation was subjected in futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it, in hope, 21 net, that the creation itself also, that the creation itself also will be set free from slavery to corruption into the freedom of the glory of the children of God. 22, for we know that the whole creation groans and suffers the pains of childbirth together until now. 23, the statue. And not only this, but also we ourselves, having the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting eagerly for our adoptions as sons, the redemption of our body. 24, for in hope we have been saved, but hope that is seen is not hope, for who hopes for what he already sees. 25, the chairs. But if we hope for what we do not see, with perseverance, we wait eagerly for it. Yeah, I think so. 26, Nacho, Sam, in the same way, the Spirit also helps our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we should, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. 27, and he who searches the heart knows what the mind of the Spirit is, because he intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. 28, the table. 28 was the famous verse. And we know that God causes all things to work for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. 29, for those whom he predestined, for those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to become conformed to the image of his Son, so that he might be the firstborn of many brethren. And these whom he predestined, he also called, and these whom he called, he also justified, and these whom he justified, he also glorified. Okay. I think I did okay. I got to keep reviewing this one, especially because I messed up making the memory palace. But anyways, one thing for me is 28 and 29. We use 28, not we. Well, 28 is used out of context a lot. Like when people are in, going through tough times, right? We always quote that verse. I made it a point to always quote 28 and 29 together now, because 28 is saying that, hey, we all know all things work for the good, right? But what is that? What is the definition of good? You have to know what that is, right? Because some people might think that, okay, I don't have a job, I'm going through a tough time, I'm going to find a job because all things work for good for me, right? I'm going to find a job, God cares for me, kind of like that. I'm not saying that's not true, but that's the whole purpose is 29, which is saying so that we will be conformed to the image of his son, which is for us to be Christ-like. Sorry, I'm looking at myself here, but that's what the whole good part is. So, and it talks like when you go to verse 17, it talks about, that the suffering that we go through. So that's, you kind of have to get the definition of what good is. So whatever situation we're in, the good that God is causing all things to work for us is that we become Christ-like. We become conformed to his image, and which is, awesome. So whatever we go through, I mean, the whole thing of Romans 8 is our salvation is secure. So no matter what we do, no matter what happens to us, we'll go to verse 39. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. So anything that we go through, I mean, who am I to say? Because I don't think I've been in that much stuff, but Z, maybe you will be, or maybe we will. Things are always getting worse and worse, getting to that time where that the heavens and the earth, everything is going to be renewed. We're getting closer every day. So, but which is just going to get worse for Christians. But yes, we know that whatever happens, everything is working for the good, right? And for us to be more Christ-like. So I hope this encourages you. We'll do 31 through 39. I think it's 39, I hope. Yeah, 39. Okay, next one. But yeah, I hope this encourages to memorize Romans 8 and whatever scripture, but don't give up, keep doing it. Even if you mess up, keep doing it. We want to be Christ-like, and I think I read like Jesus quoted the Old Testament. What is it, more than 180 times, or is it 80 times? I don't know, but either way, Paul did, Jesus did. And if you're worried about word for word, Paul didn't quote word for word. Jesus didn't quote word for word. Like if you remember Deuteronomy 8:3 that he quoted, it wasn't word for word. Paul didn't. When Paul says like in Romans, was it 12:21, 12:20, or I think it's 20, when your enemy, feed your enemy, so that the coals, a heap of burning coals on his head. He's quoting Proverbs on that one. Yeah, and it's not word for word, but you want to get the context. So make sure you get the context, and Memory Palace helps with the context. It's awesome, because I can tell you, what does 22 say? The whole world, our world is groaning, or we're waiting to be perfect. The world is waiting to be perfect because of sin. It's messed up. The world, the creation is great, and also we ourselves are doing it. That's verse 23. You could go back to verse 1. It's like, therefore there's now no condemnation. So anyways, hope this helps and encourages you. Okay, thank you.